last summer, I made £11,000 in sales in 1 month from my vintage clothing business, but I still wasn't happy or satisfied. And in this video, I want to tell you why. And I want to tell you why just because something seems great from the outside doesn't mean it is. So £11,000 in a month is quite incredible to me. The most amount of money I've earned in a full year before was around £14,000 or £15,000. So yeah, the idea of £11,000 in a month is incomprehensible, and I'm not saying that that was all profit. The profit was around 5,000 or 6,000, which is still pretty great to me and still pretty great to a lot of people. But during that time, people were messaging me on Instagram about my business, and they were saying that they have never seen somebody so consistent. People were telling me they spent almost their full salary on clothing from my store, which is incredible. I was overwhelmed by the support. I was on an all-time high. You know, I've never had so much money. I was going out to eat. I was like enjoying myself and wearing nice clothing from my business. You know, it was a great month. It was a great time. It was in the middle of summer. The weather was nice. I was able to go out, not worry so much about money for once. But I was deeply unsatisfied, and despite being in that situation, I still felt like I was doing bad. So the main thing that this comes down to, and something that we all struggle with, whether it be business, our bodies, our finances, our relationships, is comparison. And we've all heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy, but it's cliche and popular for a reason. And despite being in such a privileged position from the outside and something that felt good at times, I would still go on Instagram and I would still look at other businesses that from the outside was seemingly doing better than me. And this is the problem with Instagram and social media, as we all know. People post their best highlights. There is always someone doing seemingly better than you. Always. And even when things are good in your life, you will always find a reason to feel bad about it, because you will always look at somebody who's in better shape. You will always look at somebody who's getting better clothing than you. You will always look at somebody who's got a better house or lives in a nicer location. So we will always compare ourselves. And that left me deeply unsatisfied. And I sat in my room one night and I remember thinking, like, how have I done £11,000 of sales in a month? The most amount of money I've ever made. And I still feel this terrible. And I still feel like I'm doing bad. And I still feel like everybody's doing better than me. So I made a very drastic decision, which is something I've never done. And it's something that some of my friends didn't agree with. I was nervous and I did a lot of Google searching and asking for opinions before I did this, instead of just initially trusting in myself. But I unfollowed everybody from my business Instagram account. And I've had my business Instagram account for the last 4.5 years. I've met so many amazing people on there. I've took so much inspiration from people. It hasn't all been negative. I've networked on there. I've made friends for life that I still have now. So to unfollow everybody was a very, very big decision. But it has transformed my life. And I'm still guilty of doing it on my personal account, but from a business perspective, like now, if my business does well, my business does well. If it has a bad month, it has a bad month. But it's my good or bad month, and it's not compared to anybody else's, you know? And I've only got the competition with myself, and I've only got myself to improve from. And that's been so transformative for like my mental health, for the state of my business, for my motivation. You know, you can feel so motivated when you feel like you're putting in all this work and you're doing all you can to make ends meet, but then you go on Instagram and someone's doing better than you in whatever avenue it may be. It's so demotivating and demoralizing, and you know, it's something we all struggle with. But unfollowing everybody on Instagram is the thing that changed that for me, and I don't regret it one bit. You know, we all have FOMO, fear of missing out. But what is more important, your own mental state and well-being, or FOMO? So if you are guilty of comparisons and you're struggling to make progress because of comparing yourself to other people, or you are making progress but you still don't feel too satisfied about it, consider unfollowing people on Instagram. And I've done this with my personal as well, but not so ruthlessly. I didn't unfollow everybody, but just anybody that made me feel terrible, or anybody that I compared myself to, or anybody that I looked at and thought was doing better than me. Even some of my favorite businesses and pages, I unfollow because I end up comparing myself. So yeah, the moral of that is, just because something looks good from the outside doesn't mean it is. Just because somebody's making a lot of money on the outside doesn't mean that they're satisfied. But the reality is, people don't tell you these things. People paint a certain life out to be perfect and to not come with any issues. So that's that. Thank you.